Thank you so much to that and for all of the opening remarks. And it's now my pleasure to turn to our panel of speakers. Joining us today is Dr. Raymond Omolo, who is the Deputy Minister of the Interior and National Administration for the Government of Kenya. Prior to his current role, Dr. Omolo was the Managing Director of the Lake Basin Development Authority and has more than 20 years of experience in research, corporate governance, leadership, and strategic management. And I should say they have very full bios, and I won't read all of them, but you do have access to them. And with their kind permission, I'll read an abridged version of each bio. Next, we're pleased to welcome our online guest today, Sheikh Abdullahi Abdi from the Independent Panel of Advisors for Kenya's Peacebuilding Review. Mr. Abdullahi has been a community worker most of his life, including among the pastoralist communities of northern Kenya. He is an advocate for human rights for Kenyans, a peace worker, and a mediator. Next, to my left, we have Rana Taha, who is the Peace and Development Advisor within the United Nations Resident Coordinator's Office in Kenya. Rana has over 20 years of international experience, both at UN headquarters and in the field, focused on development and peace-building interventions. And she prioritizes national perspectives and local voice in her work. And finally, to my far left, we have Leslie Connolly, who is a team leader for the global policy at the Life and Peace Institute based in Nairobi. Leslie works to support meaningful engagement between local and global actors in effort to make policies less remote to and more influenced by the everyday experiences of those living in conflict. Prior to her time at LPI, Leslie was a senior policy analyst here at IPI, so we're very happy to welcome her back with a focus on peace building, prevention, and sustaining peace. So a warm welcome to all of our panelists, and thank you so much for being here. Dr. Omolo, if I can, I'd like to turn to you first. Can you tell us a bit about Kenya's process in reviewing its peace-building architecture? Why was it a priority for you to create a national peace-building and prevention strategy? And what do you think other member states can learn from Kenya's experience? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would want to thank the IPI and, of course, the partner states who are co-hosting this event with us. Now, it's an honor for Kenya's peace-building architecture team and myself to be able to share some of the perspectives based on the journey that we have undertaken. And just as Shamsha had indicated, it's the first time that we were doing a review of our peace-building architecture. I would want to focus primarily on just two questions. One is that how do the member states in both the fragile and non-fragile context understand the universality of prevention in the new agenda for peace? And secondly, what lessons from the Kenyan case can help inform other countries seeking to create a national peace building and prevention strategies? So first, as a country, we believe in multilateralism as a mechanism to be able to advance peace, security, human rights, sustainable development, and cohesion. Now, the challenges for peace, as we've all listened to the speakers before me, is that they are global, and we must be able to leverage on the existing collective security system that's under the United Nations so that then we're able to address them. And there is no single country that is immune to inter or interstate conflict. And looking at even the situation of Kenya, which is fairly a very peaceful state, but you look around us, there is a litany of huge insecurity challenges, whether it's the situation in the DRC, whether it's the situation in Sudan, in South Sudan, in Somalia, all over. Now, as such, the universality of peace and development challenges demands that all states take up responsibilities that are both inward and outward looking. Now, under the peace diplomacy pillar, which is one of our foreign policy, we have prioritized prevention and mediation of conflict at both the regional and global level. And I think I've already mentioned about the different countries around us within the region And what we have done as a country is there for all to see, starting with our interventions, the Nairobi mediation and action that took us to the DRC, the situation within IGAD, trying to support the teams, the warring teams in Sudan, looking at what is happening in Ethiopia as well. And we have also actively participated to strengthen the AU African peace and security architecture, as well as in the regional early warning and response mechanisms, particularly in IGAD conflict under the East African Community Mechanism. Now, to be able to sustain peace, just as I've indicated, is that all the states have to be involved. Now, the current system, however, does not adequately reflect this fact, whether you're looking at it from the point of being inclusive, as well as the financing mechanisms that exist. At the AU, we are currently championing the institutional reforms, and our president is tasked with that responsibility to lead in that front. Now, what are some of the lessons from Kenya that can help inform other countries who are seeking to create the national peace building and prevention strategy? One key or one fundamental thing is a political buy-in at all levels, both from the top all the way to the lowest level, so that then we're able to anchor prevention and goodwill whenever possible. Now, the review process and implementation is one of the priorities by His Excellency the President. And by having set up the independent panel of advisors to review that, goes to demonstrate how crucial this exercise is and the political goodwill by the leader of the nation. Now, we've also undergone other processes that involve the political players. And one of such processes is the National Dialogue Committee, which was a bipartisan process, and the product of that process is currently in discussion, which is going to lead to a number of adjustments in our institutional framework. Now, the new architecture prioritizes peace building and prevention approaches as opposed to securitized response to address violence. Of course, the natural default whenever there are conflicts is to send in the security officer so that then you're able to deal with it. Now, what we are looking at is, before we even imagine to focus on the securitization of this process, how do we strike a balance between that and what would be a much more holistic peace-building process? Now, the review took a comprehensive approach and addresses all forms of violence in Kenya and offers proposals for managing some of the cells when countering violent extremism, strengthening the civil society organization, as well as addressing the new and emerging digital threats, such as online hate speech, mis or disinformation, and reforms from the political process. This particular review was people-centered, and the team was able to engage over 10,000 participants from across the Kenyan society, from all sectors, whether in government institutions, at the sub-national government level, because within the country we have the national and the county governments, and independent experts, ordinary citizens, and women and youth who more often than not bear the greatest brunt of insecurity or lack of peace. And this process placed people, particularly those at risk, at the center of the review. And it was also a very truly independent and self-critical process, as it exposed us to the real concerns that exist. Now, the review has highlighted the importance of sustainable and, in the long run, national-driven financing for peace building, not only to ensure continuity in its financial environment, but also to enable a more strategic, coordinated national approach to peace building. And in this regard, Kenya will set up a multi-partner trust fund that leverages blended financing from government, private sector, donors, and other primarily focused on the prevention and sustaining the peace. Thank you.